let's get into it. Let's go inside the audition. I just want to ask you, from the time you get an email from your agent to the time you're shooting it, what does your process look like? What's your mindset? What are you actually doing? And then you can bridge that into when you get here at Actors Audition Club and you're working with me or Brandon. What do you do inside the room? But I'm interested first is what's your prep from time of receiving the breakdown?
Right. So I don't like to delay with these things at all. I'm pretty fast in terms of how I get it out. I think I've gotten to the point in my career where I can take a script and I can take lines and I can digest it really quickly. So it's not a matter of me learning the lines in a pinch. I could probably learn it in a couple of hours if I really need to get it, if it's relatively, decently sized. But what I'll do is the minute I get it I start looking at it. I'm thinking, how's my hair going to be? How's my facial hair going to be? How do I have to be? What do I got to wear? I'm thinking, do I have it in my closet? Do I need to ask somebody if I can borrow something? So that's the first thing I'm thinking of. I'm responding to my agent. I'm telling them that I got it. I'm clicking confirm on Actors Access if it's an Access thing or another platform, and then I whip off a hard copy. Even though I can put it on my phone, I want to see it in my hands, and I start doing things that I'm doing around the house or wherever I'm going, and I'm reading the lines and I'm intaking it, and I'm trying to hear myself speak the lines. And I'm working out, and then I'm using the script, and as I work out, I say it to myself. That's generally one of the things that I like to do. And then very quickly within that whole sort of chronology, I'm booking a session at Vikings, especially if I need a reader. And I think having a good reader is very critical in this whole sort of process. You don't want to have somebody that doesn't give you a good line feed, or that gives you good ideas, or that knows how to suggest things for you to try, especially if they know you well and they know how to sort of custom tailor your performance. So then I'll do it to wit. Today I got something earlier on before we came on camera today, and I'll be coming in a couple hours back down to Vikings to do the session with you. So it always culminates at Vikings. If it's a reader thing, it has to be at Vikings, because me driving down and then thinking about the lines and what I want to do is, for me, part of the getting psyched up process. And the drive is very essential to the success package. If it were something that were happening like downstairs here, or if it was something that were happening just across the street, it wouldn't be the same. I need to get psyched up about it. And that's kind of how I've gotten with the advent of self tapes, which we've had for the last 2 and 3 years. It's something that I've incorporated into my system, into my DNA, and that's basically how it goes. I could do it. I could whip it out in a few hours, basically. At this point, it used to take me a little longer, but today I've got it down to a bit of a science.
Love that. Yeah, I like the idea you mentioned. You have some rituals and there's a process, and just something that when you get it, you just press go, and then you go into audition situation mode until it's done. That's great. And what was the other thing I wanted to mention?
Something else.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to say was, I mean, most actors probably realize this, but if they don't, there's a surfeit of submissions. I mean, casting directors they get hundreds of, maybe even thousands for a really juicy role. And I'm just talking about non-union submissions. For union things, it's probably multiples higher. They'll give you for example, if today were Wednesday and they gave you a deadline for Monday, you don't want to be submitting it on Sunday night. Now, technically you're able to do that. And Lars, you guys have discussed this before, but they've probably already made their mental selects in terms of who they want. They'd never actually come out and say that. So if you don't get in there fast, like if you don't get your wedge in there quickly, you're going to lose the opportunity. And it also is indicative, I think, when a casting director or your agent sees that you're a little bit sort of sloppy with the submissions, they might not maybe psychologically want to be submitting you to things, because they know that you're not a keener. So that's kind of another aspect as well.
Yeah, I think there's something, and I think there's also something in your own self-confidence and self-esteem of being, I mean, we've all at certain points in our life, and I've certainly done this with auditions and with other things, where I have procrastinated, I have left it to the last minute, and you're just getting it in under the wire. But then, like, it doesn't really build your confidence. You're kind of thinking in the back of your head. It's a little bit of self-sabotage too, because you might be thinking at the end, like, oh, if I had more time, or I rushed that, what if I had actually used all the time? I think the lesson is, no matter how much time you have, use as much of the time as possible, as quickly as possible up front. That doesn't mean you use the entire thing up to the deadline, but if you get it on a Thursday, don't start on a Sunday afternoon to hit a Monday deadline. Get it on the Thursday, hit it hard earlier, and then you got it submitted by Friday, Saturday, like somewhere early. And I
Yeah,
think
I always think it's more important that you're able to sit with the material as well. Like being able to do the research and have your checklist, audition checklist done in a matter of hours is great. But I think there's still a benefit of sitting with the material for
right.
a day, maybe two, depending on how much time you have, to actually let it sit in your body. Like there's so much benefit to just sleeping on material or
Yeah,
just like
I like sleeping on it too. And
yeah.
the other thing that just comes with time and no matter, like, I mean, you could spend an infinite amount of time prepping a role, and even when you do book a role and you're doing a 6-month run in a theater show, it's going to change and evolve as you rehearse more and as you perform more.
Mhm.
But that we've all had that experience of, you get an audition, maybe it's really last minute, you don't have a ton of prep time, you do it, and then you walk out of the room, or the next day you're like, ah, shoot, that would have been great. Like, you come up with an extra idea, an extra viewpoint, an extra way to play something, something fun that you didn't think of. And that just comes with time, and it comes with reps, and it comes with rehearsals. So yeah, if you get it on a Thursday and you're able to work it on a Thursday and you sleep on it, spend a little bit more time on the Friday, I think obviously if you're spending time on it, it should be by default improving with more, the more time you spend on it, the better and better the scene gets.
Mhm.
But then there's that happy medium of, you want to be someone who is a problem solver for casting, which means on short notice you can get an audition in and be the solution to their casting problem, and showing them that you are reliable too. Because if you're a last minute thing, like, I mean, we all know there's people in our lives where it's that there's a meeting time, or you're booked for dinner and they're never going to be on time. Like, they're always 10 minutes late, 15 minutes late. But that doesn't fly in film and TV. If you have a call
Worst.
time, yeah, if you have a call time of
It's a
7,
cardinal sin. It's the
yeah,
worst.
you can't have 100 people looking around thinking, where the hell's this one guy that's going to hold us all up if he's not here right now?
It's a
So
career killer, I think,
yeah,
basically. Yeah.
yeah,
Another
yeah,
thing that I was thinking of as you were saying that is, like, I've always been very sporty. I mean, for as long as I can remember, I've always been into sports and I've always been into athletics. And I know Scorpio. I'm very competitive by nature. It's just part of my who I am. And so, to your point about sitting on it for a day versus sort of whipping it out relatively quickly, I get off endorphin wise, if I can say it like that, the ability to take a piece of material, give it a good once over, professional once over, figure out what needs to be done within the scene, and then being able to deliver it not at warp speed, but being able to deliver it in a very efficient, narrow window, for
right,
me is very satisfying professionally, because to your point about being a professional performance problem solver, it's a very hardly sought after skill. I think as you rise the ladder, and there's more sort of a script, the various colors of the script that come, as you're on set, the
right.
various sort of edits that come through. If you can do that quickly, that's a tremendous value add.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
well, because most of the time, especially when you're on set, like they have deadlines as well. Like there's a famous quote from Matt Damon where he was working on Saving Private Ryan, and they did a scene and it wasn't super great. And Steven Spielberg was like, "Okay, cool, moving on." And he's like, "Shouldn't we do that one more time?" And he's like, well, I could do it again and maybe get 10% better, or I can go do another shot." And I'm gonna go do the other shot.
right. Yeah, I mean, there's a general note in all, especially TV and film, of time, 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 time. The clock's
Mhm.
always ticking.
Yeah.
So I think the faster you are, the better. And certainly when you're hired, especially for TV, like when I was doing Oh Yuck, we would get rewrites on
Oh
the day
yeah,
of. Like, you
yeah.
get them in the makeup chair, or even you do the scene and they're like, "Oh, this isn't working," and you break for lunch, and then the writers have come back with an edited version. It's like, you got to be able to crunch that stuff. So it ends up being like a muscle.